Don't borrow that money. Don't borrow, no matter the situation. Do not collect that loan until you have watched this video. And you too, don't give that loan. Don't lend anybody money. Don't borrow money from anybody until you have watched this video. Because in this video, I am going to be explaining to you the implication of that loan you are about to take. Oh, yes. And I'm also going to be explaining to you the implication of that loan you want to give. Yes, so that you will understand what you are getting yourself into. In this video, I'm going to be analyzing inflation and how it affects borrowing and lending and debt and also interest rates. Okay, I'm going to break them down in a way that you are going to understand. All right, in this video also I'm going to be telling you, backed with proof, and we're going to solve a lot of mathematics. You see my pen here, backed with proof, things that make sense for you to take a loan, to borrow money to do, and the ones that don't make sense. So in summary, what I'm saying is, in this video, I am literally giving you a degree in financial literacy, because at the end of this video, you will be so smart with your money and you will stand well and manage your resources very well, and you would be well on your way to creating the financial freedom that you want. So I'm giving you a degree without you paying any school fees. And now the only thing I want you to do for me is to smash the subscribe button, turn on the bell notification icon. I appreciate you. Now let's get right into it. Now, let's talk about inflation. Inflation. I love to talk about inflation a lot because it affects everything, your finances, the entire economy of the country. Inflation is a very powerful index that we need to look at and analyze it very well. For those who don't know what inflation is, inflation in a layman's term is the rate at which your money loses its purchasing powers, the rate at which your money loses value. All right. In Nigeria, currently, based on last year's statistics, inflation rate in Nigeria is about 32 point some fraction percent. But for the sake of this video, let us just call inflation rate in Nigeria, let's call it 33% per annum, PA, per annum. All right. Now, inflation is a double-edged sword. You that you want to borrow money from somebody, you that you are owing somebody, inflation can favor you, and sometimes it cannot favor you. High inflation favors borrowers, and sometimes it favors lenders. Now, first of all, let us talk about how it favors you that you are borrowing money. All right. So let's say, for instance, I come to you. Of course, we know that the inflation rate in Nigeria is what? 33%. So your money loses 33% of its purchasing powers every calendar year based on the data available to us right now. So I come to you and I borrow the sum of 100,000. And you said that I'm going to be paying an interest of, at the interest rate of 20%, 20% annually, 20% annually. All right. Okay. So that means that at the end of 1 year, after 1 year, you are expecting me to pay you 120,000. Of course, that is based on the fact that it's a 20% interest rate that you're looking for. Yeah. At the end of 1 year, and to pay you 120,000. Now, based on our earlier definition of inflation, the rate at which your money devalues, that means that at the end of 1 year, the 100K you gave to me is going to be 100K minus 33% of inflation. All right. So the answer is going to be what? 67,000. So that means that this 100K that I took as a loan from you a year ago, after 1 year, its purchasing power would be only 67,000. 67,000. Inflation is the rate at which the prices of goods, commodities, and services go up. Okay? What you want to use that money for? The prices have gone up. The money has remained the same. So the purchasing power of that money invariably has reduced. So at the rate of 33% inflation rate per annum in Nigeria, 100,000 naira becomes 67,000 naira at the end of the year. All right? So you now asking for 20% interest, which is 20,000. At the end of the day, technically, add that 20,000 to this 67,000, I'm only paying you about 87,000. All right? Because the original 100,000 over the course of a year has diminished in value to 67,000. So inflation benefits borrowers because they pay back lenders with money that is worth less than what they originally borrowed. All right? So imagine me taking an interest-free loan, for instance. Let's say it's a family friend and the person does not want to collect, the person is not giving me money to collect it back at an interest. Okay, you gave me 100,000, and because you're my friend, you're my family, you expect me to pay you back that 100,000 because of the relationship we have. All right, and let's say you give me the 100,000 now, and maybe you gave me the money since 3 years ago. 3 years ago, you gave me that money. Let's do a very funny mathematics. Inflation is 33%. Okay, 33%. So for 100,000, inflation rate as it affects 100,000 is 33,000. So in the first year, that 100,000 you gave to me as a loan would now be worth how much? 67,000 after 1 year. Okay, so to know what is left by year 2, our new capital has become 67,000. All right. So what we do is 67,000 times 33%. Okay. What we have left is 22,110. That is 33% of 67,000. Okay. So when we do that maths now, 67,000 minus 22,110. What we have is 44,890 naira. Okay, by the second year. Okay, if we take it further, we now find 44,890 naira. If we find the 33% of that, 33% of that is what? 14,000, let's say approximately 814. All right. So if we do the maths, 44,890 minus 14,814. What you have left is 30,076. All right. So if I took an interest-free loan, okay, an interest-free loan of 100,000, and in the third year, I return exactly 100,000 naira to the person who gave me the money. Technically, what I'm giving the person back is a mere 30,076 naira. All right, by virtue of purchasing power. All right, 30,076 is what I'm giving the person back. So in this particular scenario, you will see how powerful inflation is. You'll see how powerful inflation is if you sat down and you calculated the amount of money I took, 100,000, 3 years ago, And the current value of the 100,000, when you put into cognizance the rate of inflation, you will see the value is now 30,076. When you minus 30,076 from 100,000, you will see 69,924 naira has been swallowed up by inflation. All right. I always tell people stagnant money vanishes eventually because of inflation. That is why you see what could buy what years ago could no longer buy it today. Now, look at the rate at which the prices of goods and services are going up. Go to the marketplace today. One fish is worth like ×4 of what it used to be worth a couple of years ago. So you find out that you take 100,000 to the market and you come back with a little paper bag, rubber bag, because prices of everything has gone up. Your 100,000 today is like 10,000 a couple of years ago. And the phenomenon responsible for that is inflation. So it doesn't make sense. Somebody is owing you 100,000 10 years ago. Somebody who was owing you 100,000 10 years ago comes back to give you 100,000 today. They have given you nothing. Because the 100,000 you gave to them 10 years ago, if it were today, that 100,000 would probably be, say, 10 million in value. Because things have gone up. What you gave them, what the 100,000 could buy 10 years ago when you gave them that money, the 100,000 can no longer buy it today. Okay? So you see, the borrower is favored in this kind of situation. Inflation is favoring the borrower because what you borrowed was big money. And when you're returning it, because of high inflation rate, it is worth less. Even when you now add the interest to it, like in the case of 20%, when the interest rate is lower than inflation rate, then that means you are not getting anything. Take note of that. When interest rate, when interest rate is lower than inflation rate, then you're getting nothing. Okay? If, for instance, there's an investment that pays 10% annually, 10% annually, in a country like Nigeria, it is nonsense. You'll be losing 23% based on the inflation rate. It doesn't make any sense. So if I tie down 100,000 on an investment that will add just 10%, which is 10,000 to that 100,000, for me to get 110,000 at the end of the year, I am just wasting my time. Because at the end of that year, this 100,000 would have become 67,000 in value. When you add that 10,000 to it, I'm just getting 77,000. I'm at a deficit of 23,000 rather. All right. So this is how inflation, diminishes interest. Okay. So when interest rate is lower than inflation rate, then you are not getting anything. It doesn't make any sense. So in Nigeria, at 33% inflation rate, any business you are doing that cannot give you more than 33% in a year, then you're joking. You're just playing. Let me paint another scenario for you where a borrower, benefits from high inflation rates. Let's say this is a building. Okay? This is a house. And I sign an agreement with you to buy this house, to pay by installment. Maybe because you know me and you see this house is valued at 4 million. I should pay for this house. I should pay by installment. And you spread the payment across, say, 4 years. Across 4 years. This arrangement suits me Do you know why? We have signed an agreement. What I'm going to pay you is 4 million. I'm paying you 4 million over the course of 4 years. All right? This arrangement suits me. I'm like the borrower now because I'm the one owing you. All right? Because the value of this house is not going to stay at 4 million for the next 4 years. Remember, inflation rate is 33%. The rate at which goods, commodities, and services increases in price. So this house should have gone way higher than 4 million in value, but I have been able to tie down an agreement with you to pay for it. So what I'm paying for this house, what I'm paying you for this house, spread across 4 years, if you gather all the money, it may not even be able to buy the door of the house you sold to me. You see where a borrower benefits from inflation. Now, how does the lender benefit from inflation rate, the person that is giving out the loan? Now, lenders can benefit because, first of all, CBN, the central bank, they increase in interest rates, okay, to cushion the effect of inflation. That's what they do. And that's what lenders do too, okay? Because inflation, high inflation means people become more desperate to collect loans. When there is high inflation, everything is expensive. Salaries are no longer enough for civil servants to spend. So when they go to money lenders or institutions that give out loans, when they see that there's a high demand for loans, interest rates will go up. You now see somebody telling you, I can give you 100K, provided you are paying me 180K at the end of the year. If you want to take it, take it. If you don't want to take it, go away. Because inflation rate is very high, the borrower is desperate. They will put pen to paper and agree to pay 180K. They can even give out their property worth millions as collateral to get that 100K. They are desperate. Okay? So it makes it harder for the borrower to pay back. Okay? High inflation rate makes it harder, okay, for a borrower to pay back their loan, especially when lenders take advantage of that situation and impose high interest rates on the loans that are being given out. So right now you understand how inflation affects loans. Now you see how it affects interest rates or profit rate of investment opportunities. All right. So now let's go to another concept. Right. Sometimes it makes sense to take a loan to do some things. Okay. And sometimes it doesn't make sense to take loans to do some things. And I will talk about the things that don't make sense for you to take loans for to do and the ones that make sense. But before that, let me tell you about a concept called DTI, okay, which is debt to income ratio. All right. When you're taking a loan, make sure that your debt to income ratio remains within 30 to 33.3% of your income at all times. All right. This way, you can conveniently pay back the loan and still live a decent life. All right. So what this means is that if your monthly income is 300,000, your loan repayments should not exceed 100,000 monthly, using this percentage as a guide. Okay, so let your DTI, debt to income ratio, be always between 30 to 33.3%, because 33.3% of 300,000 in this particular case is 100,000. So if you're paying 100,000 monthly in loan repayment, I think with 200,000 you can still be able to manage yourself and conveniently pay your loan to ensure that you totally repay that loan. Okay, so when you do your DTI analysis, you do it very well and you see that it is convenient, okay, between 30 to 33.3%, you see that when you do that, you can still take care of your family, then go ahead to take that loan. But right now, let's get right into some things that you can borrow money to do that makes sense. All right. And I'm going to break it down, and let me see your thoughts in the comment section below. I don't have monopoly of knowledge. I'm looking to learn from you guys too. This is just my opinion. It's not financial advice. I just think that this is my opinion. I just want to share with you. All right. Um, Education. Okay. Um, you can take a loan. We have student loans and all that. I believe that the greatest investment is an investment in yourself. And when I say taking a loan for education, it doesn't mean only university degree. It also has to do with skill certifications, okay, that can enhance your earning potentials, okay? Because with education, with skills acquisition, you are preparing yourself, you're making yourself more attractive in the labor market. You're making yourself more employable. Okay, that increases your earning potential. So if you take a loan to educate yourself, by the time that education translates to income, you can now use it to service the loan. All right. Okay. Um, Number two, um, buying a house. Okay. Um, a mortgage loan can help you buy a house, which can be an asset that appreciates over time. Okay. But just be ready for a long-term commitment, okay? Because the house is an asset, it can appreciate over time. All right. So if you take a loan, for instance, to buy a house, all right, maybe you took a loan of 4 million, okay, to buy a house that is worth 4 million. All right. The value of that house will not remain at 4 million, okay? Inflation, the cost of cement, the cost of rod, the cost of this, the cost of that. Okay. So let's look at a worst case scenario. You're not able to repay this loan back. It's now causing problems. You have only paid 2 million in, say, maybe 5 years for the house. You have only been able to pay only 2 million. So you're still owing 2 million. Okay. The value of this house, by depending on inflation rate, might have gone up to 10 million. Okay. That means that you can even sell the house for 10 million, pay back the 2 million you're owing, and you still have 8 million left. You see why I think it makes sense. It makes some sense if you borrow money to buy an asset like a house. All right. Because it is something that appreciates in value as a result of inflation that we talked about earlier. Okay. Now, this is going to be controversial, but I'm going to say this. Okay. You can take a loan to buy a vehicle. If the vehicle is not for luxury, okay, maybe the vehicle takes you to and fro from work. You need the vehicle to go to work. Your place of work, you have calculated that if you are to use public transport, it is going to cost you more. It would have been better if you had a car. It helps you to do your work. Okay, it makes sense. Taking a loan might make sense if it is for necessity rather than luxury. Okay, I know this is controversial, but let me break it down to you. Okay, some people will say, why don't you save to buy the car? Okay, why don't you save money to buy the car instead of taking a loan? Now, let us look at the two scenario. Okay, if I were to buy a Toyota, okay, that is priced at 2 million naira, okay, and I decided that um I'm not borrowing, okay, let me just be saving 100K monthly into maybe a money market fund or maybe a high interest savings account. A high interest savings account. And I decided to save 100K for 2 years. Okay, for 2 years. For 2 years, that is like 2.4 million. Okay, 2.4 million. Fact check me. 2.4 million. All right. So let's say I've saved 100K, every month for 2 years, 2.4 million. Do you know that because of inflation we explained earlier, the price of the vehicle will not remain at 2 million. I can go and say I want to buy that vehicle, and I see that that vehicle is now worth 6 million. You get, after 2 years, I have decided to save. Oh no, I don't want to take a loan. Let me just save 100K every month. The price of the vehicle will not remain in one place and be waiting for you while you are saving. So is it not better if I had the opportunity to take a loan? I have opportunity to take a loan of say 2 million at an interest rate of say 20% per annum. Okay, I took a loan. That means that after 2 years, 20% of 2 million, that is 400,000, 2.4 million. Then in 2 years, I'll be having to pay back 2.8 million for this loan because the loan is attracting 400,000 per year. So immediately I get the car. Then I think of having to pay just 2.8 million back. You understand? Instead of deciding to save for the long term, and I find out that inflation has taken the price of the car above my budget. So this one, it makes some sense for you to get it if the car is a necessity for your business. Some people, they are into photography, their business, their work requires that they have a car. Otherwise, they'll be spending too much because they don't have a car. Okay, that's why I put it there, a vehicle. Okay, now let us talk about what doesn't make sense. Okay, what doesn't make sense for you to borrow money for. Let's talk about that one real quick. Number one is non-essential luxuries. Non-essential luxuries. You don't borrow money and use it to buy the latest iPhone. You don't borrow money and use it to buy designer clothing or luxury cars. Cars that it's not an everyday car. It's a fanciful car. I mean, it doesn't make sense for you to borrow money to buy non-essential luxuries. Number two, vacations. It doesn't make sense for you to borrow money to travel on a vacation, especially when it's not a business trip. You want to go and have fun with your family. You borrow money and use it to travel. How do you pay back the money? Where you're going to, you're not making any money. As a matter of fact, the entire loan, you have spent it in a place that will not bring you any returns. It doesn't make any sense. Number three, daily expenses. By daily expenses, I mean recurrent expenditure. Now, this is recurrent expenditure. Don't use your money. Don't use borrowed money to fund your lifestyle. You use borrowed money to pay your utility bill for this month. What will you use to offset that bill before that expenditure comes again next month? Instead of using borrowed money to pay recurrent expenditure, your lifestyle, start cutting out some things. If your bouquet on your cable TV is too high for you, instead of borrowing money to pay it, something that you need to pay again next month, go for a lower bouquet. Okay? try to trim your expenses instead of borrowing money to fund your lifestyle. All right. Now, number 4, trendy investments. There's so many, lots of online businesses make money, online opportunities, quite legitimate ones. And you should join my group if you want to stay in touch with make money online opportunities that are legitimate. But at the end of the day, you do not borrow money and put in online businesses. It doesn't make any sense. Crypto, forex, stocks, it doesn't make any sense for you to borrow money. You always go in with money that you can afford to lose. Okay, money that if you lose it, it's not going to be the end of the world. It's not your house rent, it's not your feeding money, it's not your children's school fees. That's the kind of money that you use for trendy investments. You don't go borrow money and put in such investments. Okay, party and entertainment. A lot of people do this, but it doesn't make any sense. All right. If you want to do a wedding and you have to go and take a loan to do that wedding, you have to wed at your level. It doesn't make any sense borrowing money to throw birthday parties and stuff like that. Okay. It's not an investment. Okay. When you borrow money to do stuff, let that thing that you're doing have the potential to bring you returns that will be enough for you to service that loan that you took. Okay. So these are some of the basic concepts behind loans, interest rates, and debt. Okay, let me see what your thoughts are in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. Share this video with people. Let us see what their reactions would be. And I look forward to seeing your comments in the comment section below. Till I see you in the next one, I remain Victor Isibo. Until then, it's bye for now.